Welcome back to the Daniel Leese Podcast. If this is your first episode, welcome. But if you're a regular listener, thank you for joining us. If you haven't already, go over to the streaming pages. We're on SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, you name it, every free streaming platform. And I noticed that there's a lot of people that watch the podcast, listen to the podcast, but haven't followed. So if you haven't, click subscribe, click follow, comment, rate. If you love our conversations as much as we do, it goes a long way. But today, we are honoured to have a former professional boxer turned entrepreneur join the show today. Sam Hyde as our guest. With an impressive record of 15 wins, 1 draw and only 2 losses, Sam made a huge name for himself in the boxing world before making a brave decision to retire at the top of his game and pursue a new journey within the world of business. Sam is the founder for several businesses, including the Hyde Group, the Property Click, Somnium Contracting, Nowhere to Hide Training, Square Circle Events, and the Hyde Property Mentoring. Sam's entrepreneurial spirit has been dedicated to and what has led him to be creative and thriving businessman across various industries. And today, I'm excited to learn about Sam's transition from professional boxing into entrepreneurship and the valuable lessons that he's learned along the way. So without further ado, let's dive into the conversation and gain some inspirational insights from the one and only Sam Nowhere to Hide. How are you, mate?
Not been introduced like that for a while.
Probably...
Probably
not as good as the
now.
Yeah, exactly. Probably not as good as the boxing announcement.
Decent.
But
it was decent. Yeah, no, it's a pleasure to be on. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, awesome. I was blessed enough to be able to be introduced to you a week or so ago, and for the listeners at home, I say this every week, but truly, this story here is something that's quite inspirational because when we go into this, Sam really was huge in the boxing world, especially within British boxing, and what he's done now in such a short time is really something that can be admired and learned from. So I'm super excited to get into this. But Sam, I mean, man, there's only 24 hours in a day. How on earth do you manage to run so many businesses?
Well, I think the first bit is the same energy that I put into boxing, I put into businesses. So from a young boy aspiring to be a champion boxer, you learn to train every day, twice a day, run, diet, dedicate your whole life for technically 6 minutes. So you get given this. Now I can see how privilege of boxing, what it's done for me, because I would work a lifetime and work my whole life for 6 minutes. So now my attitude into how much time and effort you've got to put into business came very easy. So a lot of people obviously struggle with that, especially if people have not come from the background I have in terms of being employed. So I've never really been employed, so I'm not used to that 9 to 5 attitude. But if they have unfortunately come from a 9 to 5 kind of mindset, it's hard to then push the boundaries and fit that in your day. But yeah, so because of that, I've just worked hard and now I'm trying to work smart. So the stuff that I'm not good at is coming apparent and has been apparent for the last few years. So it's been aware of that, which has enabled me to work this hard.
Yeah, but with saying that though, building successful teams and stuff, and you'll know this from boxing as well. It applies for every walk of life, right? It's not necessarily how much you can do. It's about the people around you. The most successful people on the planet have got amazing teams behind them, right? Yeah,
no, completely. And I've always been one to try and build teams, and I feel like that came from the pressure really of boxing as well. So everything comes back down to boxing because everything is on me. So you have your promoter, you have your manager, you have your trainer, you have your nutritionist, you have your strength coach, but at the end of the day, it comes down to you. So I'm used to having a team, but then at the end of the day, all the responsibility lies down on you. So I'm always up for keeping people at what they're good at. And as I've got older and more experienced in business, I've applied it more and more. which is something that has been really, eye-opening to how much more beneficial you are when you let people do what they're good at rather than yourself popping your ego, basically.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's something as men that we struggle with, and I think anyone that doesn't admit that ego is a struggle sometimes, even to this day, like, I'm such an open-minded person, and even managing my team, but sometimes I have to really pull it within me to be like, ego, just be quiet, just
daily,
just be
daily.
Just let people do what they need to do.
It's a daily battle. So back to your question about time. So I've had to stop doing certain bits of business in my life. So it's hard because I know they need to be done. So a few examples. So with my building company, if the admin and office, no one's in the office and somebody needs paying, I'm naturally going to do that. But people don't understand. They've got to log onto the system. I've got to do whatever the admin's set out to do. You've got to put this in here, make sure you sign off here. So it's not just like me paying it on the phone. So, and now I've gone, I'm not doing that. So the business has to run. So that needs to be done when I can't do that. So people are used to ringing you like, Sam, can you do this? What do you mean? I don't look after that side. So passing responsibility as well, and then saying no is also massive, which I'm also hard shit at.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because automatically the immediate reaction is always, no problem.
Always. So ego and saying no are two things I believe has been paramount in me being able to do what I do.
Yeah. Well, let's rewind then, because I like to always, understand the individual, because I think it takes a special kind of person to want to be punched in the head non-stop all the time. So, like, take us back to the early years. Like, when did you kind of find boxing?
So when I was from an early age, I think it was obvious with me and my friends that I was quite hard. And in school, one of the cool things of the coolest person in the year either was the best footballer or the hard person of the year. And obviously I wasn't bothered, but I naturally became the hard person, probably because I was massitive. And
I was going to say, was it just because you were like physically in bigger shape than most of the other kids, or?
I was definitely bigger, but I was also like, I could fight. So from an early age, I got involved in a lot of street fights, but with a lot of people older than me. Some you wouldn't even believe, and I got a bit of a name, a bit of a reputation. Back to ego as well. Like, got a bit of a name and a reputation for myself of this, of this kind of hard guy. He's solid. He did this. He did, and I kind of lived up to it. It's cool, and you wanted it. And then with boxing, just it's hand in hand. So although people thought, it's boxing. Boxing's cool. Boxing's, all this. So then naturally I'm going to boxing, but I wasn't that confident. I was going to ever do anything in boxing. And then while I was doing this, I kind of I walked in the gym one day. And my mindset was, I'm not the best in the gym, nowhere near. I'm just coming to the gym because this works well with what I'm with everything in life, and I'm hard. This is what you're supposed to do, And I was naturally good at it, which I've soon realised when I got into fights. And it wasn't until one day Mr. Dunn, he was my first ever boxing coach, and he was late 70s, 80s when he first started, and he'd coach me. He would never hold the pads for me. He'd never do any physical training. So at a young age, I didn't understand what he would do for me, but it was the confidence that he instilled in me and the guidance that he gave me, which was what coached me for life. And he made me realise that my talent and what I'm about and my gifts and what I've got is something that I need to focus on. There's something that I need to stop doing everything that you do. And I was getting involved in other stuff as well. I was like, stop doing that. You need to get involved with this because we see this. And it was like everything just came. That day changed my life. Basically, I walked into the gym, noticing that I'm good. So even just by one conversation, I've noticed more things. It's just It was just, and it opened my mind, and that was one day that will change my life forever, because it opened it up, and that was the day that I became a boxer. So before that, I was a fighter, and then from that day I was a boxer, and I looked at myself as a boxer, and then then the show went on.
How old were you when you went into the boxing gym for the first time?
I was 11 or 12. Did a bit of other fighting before that, but 11 or 12 really. And I went, and I was kind of, you had 2 rooms, I always remember it. So it was on the Sale Racecourse estate, and there was 2 rooms, one for fighters, so you call them carded. So if you've got a medical card, carded boxers on the right, keep fitters are not carded on your left. So my initial first, my competitive edge, I needed to be in the other room. That was it. There was no question. I need to be in the other room. Even just little things like that. You know, at that age, it wasn't anything. It wasn't any titles. It wasn't nothing. Just wanted to be in that other room. You know. So then that got me on to the next stage. And I always explain this to people because, which we'll end up talking about in a bit, to how I'm doing what I'm doing. I've always been like, there's always certain bits that I know I want to achieve, no matter what it is. And I think it's key for people to realise the little wins that you get. So that was massive to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, the little room to the big room was my goal.
Yeah, and I also think as well, it's like nowadays, you know, you're encouraged to surround yourself with people that excel you, because, you know, when you're around these type of people, it's like, what, you're the average of 5 people that are around you, right? So like nowadays it is like, you shouldn't have to be in the room with you know, people that are not, let's just say, like, you're above, that you should be training with people that are better than you, and nowadays that's so rife in I mean, everywhere you go now, they're like, yeah, your network and stuff like that. So it's always a good thing to go up to. But what was it like when you put on the first, like, you know, because obviously street fights are different to boxing gym fights, right? Because everyone knows how to fight there. Do you know what I mean? Whereas sometimes street fights, you think you got a couple of guys that think they're hard, and whereas when you go into the boxing gym, and then the person in front of you actually knows how to give you a good dig back. Like, what was that like when you had your first encounter with them?
So yeah, because I had that natural kind of fight from the street fights, from doing stupid stuff, I had that natural belief that I was probably going to be superior over the other person, which is totally wrong. So naivety maybe, but that was that when I went to my first fight, my trainer used to do stuff. So Mr. Dunn, who's the last of the old school boxers, you don't get him like this anymore. And it was like, keep your hand up, he'll slap you. You know, keep your hand on your face. Like, if you drop it, he'll slap you. I used to do like rounds in the gym where I'd just be getting punched, and so you're not allowed to punch back. You just got to get used. So it's all like getting hit and don't blink.
Jeez,
like,
you're getting punched in the face. Just like, no, like, yeah, you're not allowed to.
All the time. The best one was like, as well, if you blink on the if you show that you've been hit, that's like 101 in boxing. Like, you can't show that you're hurt. They say like every sport, boxing's the only sport where you pretend you're not hurt. In other sports, you pretend you're hurt. In football, you take dives. Basketball, every other sport, but boxing, you have to pretend you're not hurt. So from a young age, if I get hit and even just little things like that, it's a custom. So when you get hit, you don't even acknowledge. So from a young age, getting this drummed into me was just kind of that was end up how I did very well. But so the first fight was kind of from this confidence, but with everything else that was brought in, which helps make a boxer. And I just went in there just thinking, this is it. My old school trainer, the point I was getting at, would take you, and if you were good, he'd look after you. If you're not good, he's not bothered. So basically, if you win, he'll look after you. If you lose, next. Now it's too politically correct. You can't do that. You got to look after everyone. Everyone's got feelings. So he took me to Nottingham, which was about an hour and a half from mine, and put me in against someone who's had 3 fights and won 3. He was like, let's see if he is any good. So it's just like feeding him to the lions, and I won by first round knockout. And at a young age, no one really knocked anyone out, no one stopped anyone. And then I went on a 6-fight winning streak of knockouts. So every person.
And this was all amateur fights.
All amateur fights, yeah. And I went on, I did six wins, 6 by first or second round stoppages or knockouts. From Sale West ABC. And then from there, I kind of once I had that chat, I realised there's something there.
Yeah. And when you realise that, like, you know, when you get to the point where you're knocking everyone out, like, was it that moment where you thought to yourself, I could potentially go pro here?
No, that's what I mean. So now looking back, it's stupid of me. Well, it's not stupid. That's why I'm a big believer of mindset and how important your mindset and improving your mindset is, because I did the first 6 of my fights were by first or second round knockout. I won the junior ABAs, which is the most prestigious tournament as an amateur. I won the CYPs, the national tournament. I was known around the circuit, and I would still believe it was like I've never had a fight. In the gym, I'd go to tournaments and I'd be like, well, there's that person. I wouldn't think that I was one of them. I wouldn't think that I'm this guy, and that's inevitably, I think, held me back a little bit. And so when I had this moment of when in the gym, I got in a bit of trouble, and I think he must have found out, and I come into the gym, he said, right, we need to speak to you. And I was like, what have I done? He's found out about this, and I've done all of this, I've already achieved this. And he got me in the room and just said, look, we've not seen a talent like you since Ricky Hatton, because I started at the same gym as Ricky Hatton. You've just won this. You've just won this other time. We really believe in you. If you knuckle down and train harder and do this, we believe you could go a long way, and we want to be involved. And I was like, I went red. I was embarrassed. I was like, me? I was like, me? Like, I literally couldn't believe it. I was almost embarrassed that people are complimenting me. So, and then when I walked back in the gym, then I noticed, they actually thought I was really good. Then I noticed everyone else thinking I was really good. Then I noticed other people saying stuff, and my mindset just was opened. And that was the day I realised I'm going to be a pro boxer, or probably a week later. And that's why it's just so important, these people who are amateur boxing gyms and who so important for kids to get involved with boxing, because if I didn't have that chat, I wouldn't be where I am now. No way in a million years, because I was just a different person.
Yeah, what do you think it was inside you to be lack so much confidence then? Because you know, obviously from what you said is, you know, you were known as the hard kid at school, and everything that's led you up to this moment tells you that actually no, you know, you should have the confidence of that. So what was it within you that why you didn't have that confidence?
I think like nurture, really, you know, not nature. Like naturally I'm a very confident person, but my mum and dad, you know, God love them, they're not natural. They're in the, you know, they were in the matrix. My dad was a gardener, just worked for someone his whole life. My mum worked for the NHS, she was a nurse, and they had the old school mentality, like times 10 as well. So my mum had a bit of a hard time with her mum, and that had massive negative effect, and their confidence wasn't high. And so I believe that, you know, I wouldn't be where I was today without my mum and dad, but because they lacked confidence, you know, it passes down. You know, it passes down. But then in other ways that they did, they kept me humble, they kept me grounded, they kept me out of trouble. So you can't have, you know, I'm not saying that, that's why I wasn't. But to your question, the reason why I think that was that, now I've looked back, is like, well, why would I? No one ever said I was did good. No one ever said that. And my mum now looks back and goes, because in school you were so naughty, you were so confident, you were so cocky, the last thing we needed to do was make you even more confident or cocky. So obviously, hindsight, I'm like, I wouldn't have been though, you know. So, but to your question, I do believe that had a big effect, that I didn't actually believe it, because my dad didn't come from boxing. Most boxers you see, their dad was a boxer, the granddad was a boxer, the great granddad. It's in the family. No one's boxed in my family. No one boxed. I was the first to box. No one was, you know, good enough to box. No one was sporting. I was the first to break that mould, really.
Yeah. No, I completely resonate with that. And the reason why is because when I was younger, my mum used to worry a lot. So, like, you know, I remember I wasn't allowed to play out when the sun went down till I was probably about 13, 14 years old. And my mum was always like, wear a fluorescent yellow jumper. Be careful about this. Be careful about that. You know, it's so violent out there. Don't speak to strangers. They could take you away. All that sort of stuff. So, and at the time you're like, yeah, whatever, mum. But then as you become older, like I had a problem with worrying about things, and I was confident, but I worried, you know. And it was always like worst case scenario. Like when I first started out my business career, I'd lose a deal, and I was like, I'm going to lose my job. Like, and I would just be so worried because as a child, my mum, because my mum was always saying, what about this? What about this? And I know it was her just obviously being worried, and there's no ill will in just being worried, but it does have an impact on you in the future. But going on to your amateur career then, so how many amateur fights did you have in the end before you went pro?
Lost count, really. I think I didn't have that many because when I was 15, I was 90 kg. So like I was from
big old boy.
So from 15, I stayed that weight my whole career, and I just got bigger and bigger and struggled making weight, and with that didn't put any muscle on, nothing. So I stayed at that weight. So at 15 and 90 kg, there's not that many people. And if there was, they wouldn't fight me because of my record. And I could only fight in championships. So in amateurs, it went so fast because my career really took off when I was 15. And then I tried turning pro at 18. So I had a 3-year window, really. So I probably had, between 20 to 30 amateur fights, really. But within that, I got picked for England, got picked for GB, boxed in Sweden in a box cup and won a gold medal. Won the ABAs, won CYPs, so I did quite a lot within some amateur boxers. They've had 150 fights, but they're the smaller weights. But with mine, I didn't have as many.
Yeah, it's quite a unique weight class as well, isn't it? You don't tend to have much. Yeah, and also like good competition at that age, like you say. So it's like when you're knocking everyone out left, right, and centre. But what was it like when you were so used to knocking people out and then fights went the distance?
I'd almost think in my head was because I wanted that to go that way.
Yeah.
So it was never. it was tactical. So in my head, I could have stopped him, but didn't do this. And I think one thing that happened as well, another thing that's maybe set me back a little bit. But was the making of me as well, where after I had my 6 winning streak knockouts, my 7th fight I got to the final of a big tournament and I got knocked clean out. I've never been dropped. I've got a massive neck, as you can see, and I've always took a big punch, never been hurt, never whatever, and I got knocked out and I dropped this guy with a body shot. I thought, this is it. Ran at him. My trainers kept saying, stop running at people, like you're actually running at them, just box him. And then he just caught me, just swung from the gods. And the next thing I remember, I was in the changing rooms, and that was like, I thought that every time I'd get hit, I'd break it, turn to glass. So that took a while to get over the fact that, wow, someone's just put me on my so that took a bit of it. So in the next fights, I'd go a bit, I'd be practicing stuff and I'd feel like, I can't get knocked out. And that was probably what I needed, because if it didn't do that, I would have got up and up and up, and it might have happened at a worse stage. But I literally had 6 fights. My 7th fight got knocked out clean as well. Like it wasn't like I was on the floor, tried getting up, but I don't remember that. After that, I was working on my defence. I was working on my neck muscles. I was working on my legs. I was committed because I thought I'm not invincible. But then in the fights, then I changed the way I box. And one of my friends laughs and he says, I wish you boxed how you used to box when you were an amateur, because you used to knock everyone out. And he was like, as a pro, you didn't do it as a pro. And it's because I learned boxing. I learned to outbox people and I actually enjoy it. It's like a game of chess. So my style as a pro wasn't aggressive, trying to knock people out. Which it was aggressive, and I used to throw a lot of shots and try and hurt people, but it wasn't like my amateur style.
Yeah.
So he's like, I just wish you did that, but it's hindsight.
Yeah, but it's also what I love about that is it's a valuable lesson of when things don't go your way and how you come back from it and make it work for you in the long run. Because, I mean, how many times would you heard it where people get violently knocked out in the amateurs and then they just don't box again because they're too scared, or they don't. And you hear it now in the fight game. When people get brutally knocked out, they don't ever come back the same.
Never.
So when you talk about that from learning from it and makes you even better, just goes to show the type of show like episode we're going to have here, because you're just talking about how you learn from the obstacles in life.
And I think with boxing as well, and that's why it's great to do with business. So boxing and business work really well because you learn the hard way. So rather than learning, so you learn that you've got to work harder. Or if you miss a few runs and you're not fit, you'll get beat or you'll get hurt doing it. So if you apply that mindset, so if you don't apply this to business, you're going to lose a deal. If you've done it with boxing, you can do it in business. And it's that mindset of I'll work. I don't even question how much I work because that's what I need to do to get the job done.
Yeah, it's all about preparation, and I think obviously, like you say, as a boxer, you prepare 3 months up to lead up of a fight.
Yeah.
So yeah, when you turn 18, you went pro. That's quite young to be turning pro.
Very young, and what happened with me? I didn't turn pro till I was 19 in the end because I have asthma, and I declared my asthma because my trainer at the time said, declare it, say that you've got asthma, otherwise if they find out later down the line it can cause you some big trouble. So I declared it at the start, and it took about nearly 12 months to get my licence. But what happened is at 16 you turn to a senior. So the day I turned 16, I think it was like 2 weeks later, I had my first senior fight. And I had my first senior fight, which meant I'm now fighting anyone. I could fight a 25-year-old. And I did. I fought someone a lot older who's just come back from the Marines, and I was a boy. I was still shaped like a boy. I didn't have man strength. I was a young boy, still in school. I just might have finished school. Yeah, no, I think might have still been in school. And I fought this man, and he wasn't the best. He wasn't technically gifted, and I lost that in my head. Would have been the easiest fight, but I thought so much into this. He's a man, he's this. I didn't know what. I was like, what, blah, blah, blah. And that was another learning curve, massively. But from that day, like, that's it now. That I'm embarrassed. I can't believe I boxed like that. I can't believe I let this happen. And it was just that. Boys, and a lot of people go through this when they go from junior to senior. From that day, went, that's it. Never again. Start training harder, started sparring men, started sparring pros, and really, really like upped it. Anyway, got picked for an England assessment. So when I got into an England squad for fighting in the Tri-Nations against Scotland and Wales, and went to the training camp, and then was just about to go. My opponent, Scotland and Wales, both got injured. Scotland lad broke his wrist or something. The Welsh lad pulled out. I was like, this is my chance. I finally picked up the momentum after that happened, and then they said, look, we're not going to take you. You've been picked for England. And you're basically part of the squad, but we're not going to pay for a hotel and stuff when you've not got a fight. Basically, so I was like, gutted, back to the drawing board. Started doing a few bits again, boxing a tournament, won a gold medal, and then I got picked for GB. And I got picked for an assessment for GB. And a few things as well, probably why confidence again. I probably thought imposter syndrome, shouldn't be here. I was training with Anthony Joshua. He was in the same camp. I was there, I was having lunch next to him, but he wasn't anyone at this point, and there's loads of people that you know of that was there, and that was the last, that basically was the highest I realised I could ever go as an amateur boxer. I've got to Great Britain and I've not made it. They've not brought me onto the squad. And I thought the reason why, my style was too aggressive because it was a point scoring back then. 2, my confidence, I just didn't perform when I was there. It's like just didn't do it. And I took all of this experience and setbacks really in my head and thought, that is it, I'm turning pro. And I kind of used it as ammunition, because I thought, I just feel like in my amateur, I feel like I just need to leave it behind. I just felt like I'm capable of so much and just not. I thought I just need to step up. That's it. It's because if I stay where I'm at now, then that's it. I've heard it. I don't know if you've seen this podcast, and Tom Hardy's talking about his phone conversation with Charles Bronson, and he's like, "Have you heard about the boy who in the Oxford floods, and he got his foot trapped in a grid, and they tried helping him, but the water kept rising, and they couldn't get him out, and he died." And he said, that wouldn't have happened to me because I'd have told him, cut it off, cut the leg off. And then he said, what I'm trying to say is, what point I'm trying to make is, you've sometimes got to lose a little bit out of yourself in order to progress, in order to grow. And I felt like, and I've listened to that all the time, because it just resonates like so well with my personality. Me, like, you've got to let something go to go on to that next level. And I had to let amateur boxing and that old me, that whatever, go. And I feel like that was the turning point of my entrepreneurial brain, my confidence, my mind skills was like gone. And I almost evolved into a new person, super confident, because I've gone through all of that, but I let it go. So you've got to go through it, but then let it go. Don't be taking the fact that didn't happen. Don't let that drag you down. Don't let that you didn't get picked for this, and just let it go.
Yeah, well, you obviously you started your professional career in pretty good fashion. You won pretty much every single fight up until fight 14. On that climb to the top where you're just winning, and you're winning by points, you're knocking people out. Like, did you ever feel yourself buckling to the pressure of the ego? Because surely when you get to that kind of like level, there's a bit about you where you're like, you're starting to get the limelight, you're starting to earn the money, and it's all starting to come. Did you ever suffer from that?
No, because, and that's one thing I advise to all boxers to do. So early in my career, I realised as soon as I realised the boxing business, thought, I've got to look after myself and myself only. So I've got to make sure I've got a backup plan. I've got to make sure that boxing doesn't take more from me than it's give me. So from a early age, I set up businesses. So what I'm trying to say is, a lot of boxers never do business, they never work. So as far as everyone's concerned around them, they're a boxer. That's all they do. But because I've always had businesses, I was PTing, I set up a barber shop, I did a meal prep, I was doing everything. I've always done other stuff. So my ego was, I do other stuff. But I think a lot of boxers who get to that level, and they're at a level where they're getting known, people are asking for pictures, that people are rating them, but they're not earning the big money, but they're living a lifestyle because they've got to live up to it. I never did that. I was the opposite. I was like, I'm investing. I was working 24/7 as well, and that was the best thing and the best advice we could give any young boxer, if there's any watching this, to like, make sure you can look after yourself at all times, not only just for a backup plan, because it just serves you the right purpose, because your ego doesn't go. So boxers who retire, they've boxed their whole life, but now they've not got anything. They've not got anything set up what they're going to do. So a lot of them will go back, and if they don't go back, they can't go and get a job as a PT because they're a pro boxer. How could they go to a gym and be a PT, which they'd make a lot of money, but they couldn't because of ego. So to your question, because I started from the start, I never carried that on. And also back to my mum and dad, like they wouldn't let me. So although they didn't like grow my confidence maybe as much as I might try with my kids, they kept me grounded, and that, and that would have never happened. So I owe them a lot in that respect.
Yeah, which is a huge benefit at the end of the day. But when it comes to your business journey, then, so at what point did you start your first business?
So I've always obviously been entrepreneurial from a young age, too entrepreneurial sometimes when I was younger, getting involved in all sorts. But when I was 17, I set up a barbershop. And I set up a barbershop because my barber was wanted a place and my brain started sticking, and it failed miserably. And it's because he didn't come with me. So I set this shop up for him and he said, I'm going to stay, I'm not going to do it. And I was like, I'm on my own. I don't know how to cut hair. I don't know any other barbers. And I've now got a barbershop and I called it Uppercuts. So like, a guy messaged me actually, one of my mates from Sale, I don't see often, but he said, mate, I remember when you had that barbershop at a young age, I knew you were going to do something. 17 years old, 18, I've got a barbershop. Whether it made money or not, people were impressed, like, wow, fair play. And it's not that hard to do. Lease the property. I thought that the rent was going to cover the money we made would cover the rent, and it lasted 6 months. And the anxiety, stress, and everything I went to, but that was basically I knew I was made for business because I was like, this is what I want to do. And then from that, I was PTing as well. So I was PTing below a barber shop in Sale, and I started pushing that more. And that wasn't a business, that was me just PTing. So what technically was a business. And then I was growing that as well on the side of boxing. And then from that, I got a space to rent out, got someone working for me. And then that was initially my first proper business where I was like, this is actually making money and I'm off, kind of thing. So the barbershop was the first, but after that, it was my PT business.
So it was even before you'd even made it as a pro boxer, you'd already ventured into the entrepreneurial world then?
So yeah, I had a G-Wagon before and a big pay packet in boxing. And people, I let them believe what they want. Like, oh, I see it, he must be doing well. But as a boxer, I've got to give off that maybe it's come from boxing, but it's not come from boxing. I did all right from boxing and sponsorship and stuff like that, but not nowhere near made what money I've made in life. But I've done meal prep. I had a meal prep company as well. I tried setting up a sofa gym business. I've had an online training business. I know all my other businesses now. I've always just been trying to grind and build up that capital.
Yeah, trial and error. But you spoke there about the anxiety when it comes to the business and the barbershop. I'm interested, did you ever experience that type of anxiety when you were fighting?
Never. So
it's so interesting, isn't it? It's just
yes, the mindset.
For other people, other way round, going out to a crowd of people and fighting in front of them would be like, a lot of people wouldn't do it. I know from my side, like if I ever get invited to like a white collar boxing, I'll probably be too nervous to do it, because that even though I know that on the other side of those nerves is like a great feeling of like pleasure and just like you're just flying. It's just that initial nerve part, I would find it really challenging to come over.
What I realised that in business, there's other people and other things and scenarios to blame. So barbershop, there was the barber to blame who didn't come over with me. There was my friends who didn't support me. There was there was bad parking. Blah blah blah. There's excuses in business. So you're not, and you've got many factors to blame. There's all these excuses. In boxing, there's no excuses. It's you versus you. Literally, it's who's the better man. So I adopted that. Works very well with me. Give me the pressure, I'm going to come out on top. Put me in a room with 10 other men. I'm confident to think I'm the last one in there. And that's my kind of mindset. Business though, that's a different ball game. It's stuff out of my control. There's stuff out of, and that's where I got addicted to it, because naturally my mindset is, put me in a room, I'm the last man standing. But in business, I thought, I want to do it with this as well. I want to be the last man standing in business. which didn't come natural. It did come natural. I'm naturally entrepreneurial, but thinking like a businessman and thinking like a boxer, similar in ways, but also very different in others.
Yeah, for sure. But before we go too much onto the business, I just want to finish the part of your boxing career, because you at one point you was fighting for a vacant WBA intercontinental cruiserweight title, and that was the fight that was on the undercard of the Usyk Bellew fight.
Yeah.
How was that as an experience? Would you say that was kind of like the best fight, like in terms of arena perspective, that you'd fought at?
Well, I fought MEN like 5-6 times. Fought the O2 Arena. Fought loads of places. So I'd say O2 is probably the best. But in terms of the fight, that was obviously my most high profile fight, unfortunately, with the result. And I think that basically showcased the world of boxing, what it was about. Because no one thought I was going to... I didn't win because of my eye, but anyone who's not watched it, I was 8 rounds up on the scorecards. So with 2 rounds left, if I would have won that would have changed my life forever. I know what that guy gets paid per fight now. I know what deals he's on. He's sponsored by Adidas. He's gone on to big things. He's done a campaign with Burberry. He's backed by Sky. It's big time, and I didn't drop around. I basically schooled him for 8 rounds, and I trained for 4 weeks for the fight. And because I got it at short notice, my birthday was October 26th, went out, was in a bad way. And then the next day flew to Chicago with my trainer, and he said, right, got your fight. And he said, I was like, right, let's go. And I wasn't super fit, but no excuses. 8 rounds in a 10 round, I was up on the scorecards, and he pulled one shot and my eye just started getting bigger and bigger and bigger, to the point where my trainer threw the towel in. And it was a weird feeling, because I thought it basically just summed up my boxing career. I'm like the nearly man. There was always something in the way. There was always something slowing it down. And maybe that's life, but the difference with boxing, you're getting hurt, you're putting your life on your line, you're losing brain cells, and you're missing out friends, family in your life. So there's a big difference. You can do everything else with business. That's why business is so enjoyable for me. In boxing, I've given up my life. And I was prepared to die for boxing. That's the mindset you've got to have. If you go in thinking I could die, you shouldn't box, because you would box differently. You go in, you genuinely, you go in to the death. And that kind of summed it up, And that was one where that was probably what led me on what I'm doing now and how I'm doing it.
I was going to say, was that the beginning of the end, do you reckon?
Great way to describe it. That was the beginning of the end, and at the time it looked like this was the beginning of my career, because everyone knew me from it. Still to this day, someone will say, "How's it that fight with your eye?" I think like 13 or 15 million people on DAZN watched it. It was on the massive undercard. It was the most vital. It was trending on Twitter. My eye, every celebrity you can name was sharing it. Wow, you've seen this guy, and I got a lot of respect for being a warrior. So everyone labelled me then as a warrior, because I was basically laughing and saying, "Come on, like carry on." And my trainer put the towel in, and everyone loved it. Everyone seen my personality. So that was basically, everyone thought, this is the start. This is me. This is it. I'm off. Let's use the profile and then the base that I've given myself, the chance to now get into other fights, and then it just didn't quite happen and then lockdown. So beginning, I like that, the beginning of the end. For sure. And
I know this is a bit of a personal question, but it's always kind of like on I think in a lot of people's minds is, if you're not these like top dog Anthony Joshua kind of fighters, like what on an average, what would you get paid?
So when you're starting off, I went really high up as amateur, When you turn pro, unless you get signed by the big boys, you start at the bottom. So whatever ticket, so how this works is, which is the most fucked up business in the world, if whatever tickets you sell, so if I sell whatever tickets I sell, so however many tickets I sell, 10 grand worth, 15 grand worth, 5 grand, whatever it is, you pay for your opponent out of the wage if you're bringing in a fighter. So let's say you brought in 10k worth of tickets. Your opponent wants 3 grand or 2 grand, 3 grand, so there's 7 grand left, and then you'd half it with the promoter. So that's a ticket deal. So you pay for your opponent.
But isn't the promoter the one that's meant to promote the fight, like get all the people to come?
So it's ridiculous, and that's why boxing. Obviously, there's a stigma around boxers being not the most intelligent, and to be honest, I know why people build this stigma, because you've chose a career where you get punched every day of your life. Naturally, I think 80% of boxers probably aren't gifted mentally, but the business side of it didn't sit well with me from day one, because I was like, hang on a minute, so you need me on your undercard at the MEN arena because you've got Anthony Joshua fighting, but you need some good fighters locally, but I need to sell the amount of tickets, and then you get half, after I've paid for everything, you get half. I was like, if Jay-Z's performing at the MEN arena and he has people on before him, they don't have to sell tickets, they're needed. Jay-Z's selling the arena, but that's how they get you. They're filling it anyway. They fill the stadium, but then they put you on ticket deals, so you've got to slowly build up. And then for title fights, anywhere from, you start at 20k, then if you win, you get 30k, then, win that, but then even then, I've had a conversation, but I can't say who it is, but someone very, very high profile boxer, got offered less money once they've just won another title. How does that work? Well, because there's no money in this fight. And it's just like, what? So it's not like football. You do well, you move up the ranks. It's based on it's just a mad business. It's just, and that's where it gets so many bad reviews and it's such a bad environment. And that's why no fights get made that you want, because it's a business behind it. And you might want to see two fighters, right? But if them two can't fill out the arena, you're not going to see that fight. And then if two of them have both got egos at the big time, they're not going to fight on an undercard because they feel like the big. So it doesn't happen. But it's like in football. United play City, United play Arsenal, Chelsea play whatever. That happens. It's boxing's just fucked.
Yeah, I mean, what I was just thinking about there, especially with the last fight, not the last fight they had, but the title fight that you had, where your face was really blown up. How much pain were you in the next day?
Yeah, that day not at all because adrenaline, but the next day, it was my head was just throbbing. There's a picture I looked like Quasimodo, so. It was like this big, so it was just about this big hematoma, and then it kept growing, then it went down to my face, then it was all here, and then it was here, so one half of my face was swollen, and it was just, my eye went different shape and stuff. I've got a problem with my eye now from it, and I didn't even question the pain because it's standard, that's what you do. It's just unfortunate. I dislocated my knee in a fight, got up, put it back in and won. Broke a rib, and when I drew a fight, I had a crap rib, had food poisoning, that's how I made weight, got in the ring. If he would have touched my rib, I would have gone down because I had a full crap rib, couldn't even sit in the toilet, nothing. And you just get it's like pain's part of boxing, like working hard's part of business. Pain's part of boxing, it's standard. You don't talk about it, you don't moan about it.
Yeah. Did you ever get into that much pain though that you thought, do you know what, I don't even think I can do this again?
No, because that's what I mean, the mindset. You don't think that. So everyone says that the eye one, people do ask me about that, but one of the most ones is when I dislocated my knee. So my knee fully came out. There's a picture of my kneecap fully out, and you see me straighten my leg to pop it back in and stand up, and I'm limping around, and I keep falling over, and the ref was good, and he said, "What's wrong?" I said, "I keep slipping." I said, "I keep slipping," and he luckily let me go on, and I won. But in my head, I wasn't thinking, my mindset wasn't, "You've dislocated your knee, it's really sore, stop." My mindset is only thinking, "I can't be pulled out here, I need to win." So if you're not thinking about it, it's not apparent. It's only after the moment. If like it happened now, it'd be like I'd be on the floor rolling about. But when you're in the deep of it, the mentality.
When you're in that fight or flight, yeah.
Fight or flight, like it's fight mode. So you don't even think about it.
So you look at COVID then, and a lot of us look at COVID and we think, oh, that was a really challenging part of our lives. But I suppose for you, it was almost like a time to reflect and new parts of your life. So when COVID came around, and obviously no boxing, you couldn't leave the house. I mean, do you know what? I hear this a lot, and everyone was like in England, "Oh, we're in lockdown, yeah." But everyone's gone to the park for 2-3 hours, 4 hours, whatever, and they're camping out and sitting on picnics and whatever. But in Dubai, you was only allowed out once every 3 days. That was a proper lockdown. But going back to yeah, exactly. It was crazy. We had to get permits to go to the supermarket, but everyone was going and getting permits every day and just going to the supermarket to leave the house. So they was like, right, okay, we'll stop this, and you can only get a permit every 3 days. Going back to the kind of the business then. So COVID came around. You already had like a few businesses in that, and what was it, a contracting business that you'd already started by then?
So just so everyone's. Because they probably think, because when I put videos out, they're like, "It doesn't make sense. How could you just have this? Something's bullshitting." So, because I've had a lot of these comments, I'll just run through dead quickly. So, when I started boxing, started PTing under a barbershop in Sale, did well, rented a space in the gym that I now own. That then outgrew the space that I was renting, took over another gym with my business partner at the time. Then outgrew it, got a phone call to take on another gym, the gym that I first rented a space. So the old owners of the gym moved on. So I thought, fuck it, this is it, let's take it on. So I took on the lease, and I'm still here now, 6 years later. So I took on the business, took on the gym. From the gym, I was busy boxing, busy doing PT, and was always up for more money, getting more money. To start saving more money, I always wanted to get involved in property. So I bought my first property. Then from that, bought my second property, and then the second property needed building work. So I started getting builders in. My network, I did joinery years ago, when I just left school, and I thought I'll do a bit. Anyway, start bringing in the teams. Started project managing these projects, then did another one, and then my best mate, Sam, works as a surveyor, and his company said, right, we're going to give you experience and let you project manage for your company, for the company of this refurb. So he's seen what I was doing. He said, Sam, do you know a plumber? Do you know this? Do you know that? So I started passing him, but I'm wasting my time, he's wasting his time, and we're just getting this office refurb. So me and him started meeting up and saying, look, why don't we set up a contracting company? You've got loads of people and everyone who you know in construction because they're doing your own stuff. You're a surveyor and can probably give us work. Why don't we set up a company? So then if your boss ever needs someone again, the company does it. So anyway, this thing started in Starbucks, and Somnium is now the contractors company, because Somnium's dreamers in Latin. Because it was just a dream. Let's just do it. I'm PT and I've got this, got that, got properties, but contractor, whatever. So anyway, we started doing a few jobs. We put the feelers out to a few people, started getting loads of commercial contracts, and then boom, landed an NHS contract, and then that was the making of Somnium. And then Somnium's now got a residential and commercial building side. So that's basically how these things came about, if you know what I mean. So just thought I'd put that out there. And then obviously lockdown, lockdown came, and I'm still boxing, still have my businesses, but the business, because I was making more money from my businesses than boxing, my lifestyle was based on what I was earning from business. So when lockdown come, boxing money stopped, all my sponsorship stopped, no fights, the commercial contracts that we were doing was on pause, the gym was closed, so every form of my income stopped. Every bit of it. So I lived my lifestyle based on my business. So it was like a catch-22. If I didn't have business, I'd probably be still boxing. If I didn't have business, because I would have had to, if you know what I mean. But then because I had time to reflect of what I really want to do and step out of being a boxer, I got given 12 months to be a businessman. It was almost like a get out of jail free card. Because there's no boxing on, you've got to think creative now. You've got a gym that's closed, and you've got a contractor's company, and you've got property that maybe people won't pay rent. I was like, I've got to make some money, and I've got to get super creative here. And I said to myself in lockdown, tomorrow, which was a Sunday and a Monday, I said, I'm going to come to work like a businessman. I've never done it before. People won't even realise this. I was 20, 25, 26, however old I was. Tomorrow was the first day I'm ever going to turn up to work at 8 o'clock in the morning and do a day's work. I was boxing, training, business, on the phones 24/7, and I said, that is it. And I thought I was only going to do it for a year. I thought, do it for a year, boxing will be back on, get my businesses back going, but I had time to digest my thoughts, what I really wanted, and got rid of any of the false dreams that I thought I had, like being a champion. So I thought I wanted to be a champion. That was my only goal. But was it? Why did I get involved in boxing? I didn't get involved in boxing to be a champion. I got involved in boxing one at the start because that was inevitably what I was going to do. Like, look at the size of my hands as well. Like, that boxers, everything was made for me in boxing, but it was to make some dough. I wanted to make money. When he said you could make money out of it, that's when I was like, wow, I need to be a boxer. So the only thing I wanted out of boxing was money. And I had a year to realise that. And it took a while to realise, why don't I leave boxing? Which was mad.
And it is mad because there's a lot of things that always come with that as well. And again, like we said at the beginning, is like when you're walking out to the ring and people are there to watch you fight and you get a good knockout, like all those kind of like adrenaline rush feelings. Like you're saying goodbye to that. And do you ever find yourself kind of chasing that sort of high again?
It's a good question because weirdly, my personality is like I'm all or nothing, and because I'm nothing in boxing now, and I'm all business. Don't even cross my mind, and I chase wins in what I really get. Adrenaline rushes off. So landing your first 10k in the bank, landing your first 50k in the bank, landing the first 70, 100k in the bank, buying this kind of them stuff, achieving stuff, growing, and I'm really, I get so much buzzed. So one thing at the minute I get a massive adrenaline rush and buzz off is watching something that watching and like my network that I've created, watching people in the network become business partners just gives me like a unbelievable high, like what I can't believe, because I'm like, I've created this and these two guys are going to better their life by what I've created, and it's hard to compare that to walking out to the ring and winning, because that is just, you can't even comprehend how good that is. But with the cons of what that, because unfortunately to get that you have to get punched in the head, but to get this kind of high you don't have to get punched in the head.
Punched.
Pound for pound, what is better? It's definitely the business.
Yeah, for sure. It's so true what you say there, because there was a point in my life where I was thinking to myself, like constantly chasing a dream. And as you do, you constantly chase. And I always am chasing. That will never go. But one thing that I found was like, showing kindness to others, helping other people. It was something that I only realised over the last few years, which is a very, very rewarding feeling, you know, to be able to help somebody else that's in a less fortunate position than you are. For me, I was like, wow, I couldn't believe that, like, you know, that it could be so rewarding, you know. Yeah, exactly. It's like, it almost sounds selfish saying it, but it's like, well, no, I'm helping somebody at the same time. So, but it is it's so rewarding helping others.
It is, and I remember I was at an awards once, and I remember this, and when he said it, I was like, what a guy, that's so true. So Fred Dome, the guy who owns Betfred, gets a lot of stick because obviously he owns a betting company, but he invests, no one knows, but he puts millions into kids, into helping kids off the streets and everything, but he doesn't want anyone to know. And I was at this awards, and it was mad. It wasn't set up. It wasn't fake. And they said he's going to kill me now for mentioning this because he's told me not to. And if you met him, his personality, he will not want him to get on stage. But Fred Dome, please come up stage. He was like, no, he wouldn't get up to stage. And they were like, his missus or daughter had to be like, come on. And then he got to stage. He was like dead embarrassed. And they said, the guy was like, I'm not bothered if Fred don't speak to me for 2 weeks, but he needs a round of applause from everyone here. He's just put in £3 million to a youth zone in Wigan, which is basically a place where kids from estates can all go and get out of knife crime, and they can learn there, they can chill there, and they've got a roof overhead so they're not hanging around on bus stops getting up to no good. And he bought one, and he was like, his reaction, everyone was like, wow, like he didn't want anyone to know, no one knew, it's not publicised, it's not like PR, nothing. And he was like, I'm so embarrassed that he's got me up here because I get more out of this than the kids. And I thought, what a guy. No one would admit that, but the high that you get out of giving and creating, you get more out of it. So like, it's like if you help someone and you give someone money, like they're buzzing, but you're buzzing more, aren't you really? Like you're actually like, if you help someone, and Fred Dome just said like, he was like, and he was dead embarrassed, and he was like, I get more out of that than that. And I thought, that is so true. Like he would just be buzzing that he's done that. He's like, yeah, I've done that. So that's his reward. He's like, I don't want a round of applause. I get more out of it than them.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. But that I suppose that leads nicely on to kind of like my next question then. So obviously helping people, you've now created a network which you're launched recently. Now there's so many to talk about, but it's called is it the Property Clique, right?
The Property Clique, yeah. So that's the mother brand.
That's the network. So let's tell us a bit about like that and like how that came around and what was the mindset behind it.
So the Property Clique is a property business, a prop tech business. So one side you've got an app which is launching probably beginning of next year, 2024 or the end of 2023. But there's an education side as well, which isn't on the app, but it's the same kind of brand. And how that started is after I left boxing, I started documenting what I'm getting up to. So when I was doing more refurbs, and to be fair, I wasn't doing more than I usually do really. I just started putting on Instagram more. So I was always doing that amount of property. I was always doing that amount of refurbs. But I started promoting it. All of a sudden, everyone wants to know what I'm doing. Everyone wanted to ask me questions. Because I'm a giving guy, and I'm replying to everyone saying, yeah, do it like this, give this guy a call. So I'm basically coaching and mentoring people. To the point where people were genuinely going, I've took your advice, I've bought this property, and I've done it like this. And I'm like, wow, I'm like a free guide. I thought, business brain, I thought, I am quite good at it. I have started from nothing, I built up this. I'm going to just do one mentoring program. Long story short, about 18 months ago, launched my first or thought about my first program. I launched the first program and I sold it out. I was charging £1,000 per program, and I had 10 slots and I got 10 people on. I had 6 slots and I sold 6. And I thought, 6k, wow, just 10-week program, me doing this. So anyway, then I started thinking, well, I can't scale this because, it's going to take a lot of my time and it's a lot of money. So anyway, doubled it. So doubled it to 2k. and then I got the same amount of people on. I was like, wow. But then I thought, this is wrong. I thought, making people pay 2k and then the next one would have been 3-4k. If I'm mentoring someone and telling them what to do, I'm saying learn on the side, learn, because these guys weren't ready to invest. So I get about self education and joining onto programs and stuff, but I thought, I'm not going to get to a position where I can charge these guys 10k because it's not right. People do it, but it's not right. Charging someone 10k a year to mentor them is outrageous. It's like hypocritical. Surely you'd be telling them, look, do this kind of research, find this about yourself. And then that's where I start thinking, I don't want to do this because I don't want to charge these people this, because I think they should be investing that in property. And of course, you're paying for my knowledge, you're paying for this, but I thought, it just doesn't sit well with me. And I thought, how can I make it better? And every program I put on, they wanted to stay with me. So every program, I've still got people on my program now, my network, from the first program. They were like, we really want to do it. We love it. And I thought, so I made a direct debit. And now I've got guys who just pay me a subscription for me to help them. I have one-to-ones once a month with them and they jump on my Zoom calls. And then again, I thought, how can I scale this to another level? Because what they're getting out of it is unbelievable. I need thousands to benefit from this. There came the idea of the network.
Tell us about some of the success stories in the group.
One massive one is business partners. So meeting through the group and me networking, me putting them together, and now they've just bought the first property and they're buying the property and they're going to end up making about 50 to 60k in it through that. So 2 people will make 60k. Others have had offers accepted. People have got HMOs. The best one for me as well, I've actually done a joint venture with one of my mentees. So I bought a property with Owen, who's on my program. So, and just the network that they've met, the confidence, seeing the confidence grow, the community they've created. So, but I've got 20 people on my program. And I thought that I want to create something. 1, that's better for these 20. 2, more people can do. And I've come up with my network, and it's on a Discord server, where basically you learn on there, you meet people on there, and there's ethos and values on there, what you've got to follow. So people are supporting each other's business, which my network offered as well. One person's business grew from my network to the point where they stopped coming on the calls, and I said, listen, don't join this network to learn about property and build your business up, and now you're not bothered about the property. And he's like, I know, and we have a bit of a laugh. But basically, in a sense, that's what happened. He joined property because he needed to make a bit of money. He's joined the network, his business has took off. So I've managed to scale this, where we can have thousands on this network. I'm going to do networking days and everything. It's super exciting.
Yeah. How big is your property portfolio now?
So it's just probably about 3.5 million portfolio, UK based. And that's not, some people will be impressed, but to me, the first 4 years I was learning what I was doing, and I was a bull in a china shop, making the mistakes, hence why I make a good mentor. Maybe it would have been best me learning what to do first and paying these mentors 10k and then doing it properly, but I'm not going to attract those kind of people because I'm a bull in a china shop. Those people who just want to smash it and they just want to get involved and make as much money as they can, that's the people that I attract. So I've got to know my market and stuff, and my portfolio has only just started because it's a snowball effect. So as you get one, then you get another, and then before you know it, it's like compound interest. And so you ask me that question in 5 years, the growth will be like 10x, and that's the whole value and purpose really of my network, because I could have, if I did this, I would be here now. But I didn't, so now I'm here letting you guys know how to do it for an affordable price, and that's exactly what it is, basically.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, knowledge doesn't come for free, right? So I don't think you should ever feel guilty about passing on valuable knowledge, especially if it helps people in the long run. If you can teach somebody about the property game and save them 10k on the first purchase, for example, you save them money.
The problem is though, and mentors don't mention this, so I'll be the first property mentor to ever mention this on a podcast. Property game changes month by month. Not only does it change, your circumstance change, so you're always learning. So if you jump on a mentoring program and pay 10k, your life and property is going to change. So you need to pay another 10k. So if it was a one-off 10k and you learn everything, but it's not. So if it was, I would charge it. If I could teach you everything you ever need to know for 10k, and do it at the level I was doing it at, I probably might have done. But then but I more let people into what's needed, how to do it, and it takes months. It takes months and months and months, and then you keep learning, and then something happens in life, like your business either takes a massive high or a massive low. So I teach you how to deal with this kind of stuff, how to think, so there's a lot of mindset stuff in it. And that is unfortunately just got to be a thing that you've got to tune into monthly. You can't learn it in 3 months. So I was doing it, obviously, look, not being an angel, if there was money to be making, people got value out of it, I'd do it. But the best value is where you commit to something. Because think about it, these guys as well, they've got full-time jobs. People have got full-time jobs. How can they commit to just giving everything? And then also, if they don't do anything improper, they're guilty because they've just paid 10k. So this way they can learn in their own time and they can grow in their own time as well.
Yeah. What would you say is the biggest mistake you ever made with property?
Not planning where you go in first. Yeah. So so what people do is, I need to leave my job, so I need 2k a month. So how do you get 2k a month? Do a HMO, because that house of multiple occupancy, because that gets the best rent. So you put all your money in a HMO, and then you realise 5 years down the line that HMO hasn't really gone up in value, but you just got 2k. So what you do is you plan where you want to be in 5 years, and then kind of work backwards. And that's the best tip I could give anyone.
Yeah. And when it comes to business, I mean, I know it sounds all great that you started from boxing and stuff, but what lessons have you learned along the way? Because there must have been a fair few. Being the personality that you've got, what sort of lessons have you learned from business?
Probably the massive lesson is how important network is and how important relationships are, because I've learned from how well I've done out of it. But I almost learn because I go, if I didn't do that for that guy, or I wasn't in that kind of group, or I didn't do that, this wouldn't have happened. So it was more from the positives. So how important network is, like people who just try and do it themselves hit sticky places. Like get involved with people and talking to people is just that important. And then other lessons as well, it's kind of like knowing where you want to take your business, because everyone starts a business and everyone wants it to smash it, but you've got to almost know where you're going to take it and what that's going to cost. Otherwise you'll take it down different rabbit holes. For example, if you've got a company that you want to take really commercial, you know that you've got to invest differently. But if you've got a business like a gym where you just want to, it's not going to make you millions, but it's going to serve some kind of purpose, then you deal with it differently, because it's that kind of business. So at the start, I'd look at every business the same and treat them the same, and now I look at each business separate.
Yeah.
So that was a massive lesson.
If you could, I know your journey's been quite a fascinating one, but if there was anything you could change about it, what would you change?
What would I change? I think it doesn't haunt me, because I'm doing what I'm doing. And it's hindsight. I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change a thing. What I'd do is, I just wish maybe at the start I was that little bit more confident. But then now I've put to bed that I've had my journey and my path was different, and I had to learn about my mind and other people's mind and mindset myself. So if I did have that dad who was a boxer, I do believe I would have done better in boxing. But then if I've done better in boxing, I might not have done as good in business. So I'm very happy where I'm up to. I just, I probably, basically what I always think is when I do eventually have a family, I'd make sure they maximise their potential. And basic confidence doesn't ruin the potential as well.
Yeah, no, it's for sure. Like, I mean, it's like you said. I mean, I there's one thing that I would love to do in my life. Okay, and I mean, to be honest, I'm blessed with confidence. Like, you started a podcast, speak to some of the most interesting minds in business and personal success, and talk to them like they're my best friends. So like that has to come with a certain amount of confidence. And there's a lot of things that I just say yes to, But there's one thing that I'd always love to do, and that is to jump out of a plane with a parachute, obviously with a parachute on, but like go parachuting, but it's just the fear just holds me back, and just having that confidence is to just go, do you know what? No, I'm not, mate. There's a difference between flying and then being up at like however high, and then the door open and you got to jump out.
Well, I've been told, but I'm basically picked up a fear of flying. Basically, like you said before, your mum was always saying to you, like, don't do this workout. And then you start realising as you get older, well, I know why now. Because someone ended up getting hit by a bus that, someone. So with flying, I was naive to it, but now I'm like, wow, you can actually die in a plane. And I've just picked up a bit of a fear. I think one time coming back from Marbella, heavy weekend, and then it just hit me. I was like, and I get on planes all the time, but it's something that I need to deal with. And I spoke to someone about it. They said, you need to drive a plane. You need to go get your plane license. So one thing I want to do is jump out of a plane and get my plane license, because that's something that is a fear that I'm going to conquer.
Yeah. So it'd be cool. I mean,
we'll do it together. Jump out together.
Yeah. I was yeah. And if I don't go, you drag me out, and if you don't go, I'll drag you out.
There you go.
But yeah, I watched a video of Will Smith explaining it, and I was just like, man, like the feeling, because it's almost like an out of body experience, right? It's not something that you just do every day,
No.
To be able to do it would be amazing. But listen, Sam, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate being able to sit down and share the wisdom of people like you, and also as well give real life examples of how quitting kind of gets a bit of a bad rap. Like it's almost like, if you quit you're a failure, blah blah blah. But you quit your boxing career at the top of your game to go and do something that you felt was something that was your destiny, and that's business. And a lot of people just get to the top and just keep going even though they've passed their expiry date because they're too scared to change. So I think sharing that story today of you being able to change whilst you're at the top of your game, and you could have gone on to win titles, but still not let that fear not let that haunt you for the rest of your life, because having the back of your mind thinking, I could have won titles, but now you've just put all that hard work into growing a business. And I'm really thankful to be able to be able to be in your network now and know each other. And when you next come back to Dubai, I'd love to catch up and have some lunch and hear about your how you're going to start entering the UAE market as well.
Exactly. No, I really appreciate your time. Like this kind of podcast probably doesn't credit to you, because how it's gone today, we've kind of spoke about the things behind everything, rather than like, how have you grown your business, how have you done this, this is kind of like things that people don't talk about. This is like unheard of. And I think with if I could pass anything to anyone, or someone takes something from this podcast, is I've done it from boxing, and I'm not saying that. So boxing is it's the hardest sport in the world. So if I can do it from that into business, anyone can do it. And I think that the line of the podcast was exactly that you can cut things off to grow, and it's just so important. And I feel like, yes, hopefully someone listens and can cut something off that they know they need to.
Yeah, I've never really said this either on the podcast, but one of the reasons why I started this podcast is because growing up, I didn't have much guidance. Not saying that my parents weren't good, because ultimately I've turned out to be where I am today, which in a lot of people's eyes is great, and I do thank them for that. But at the time I didn't have much guidance, and I create this podcast because I almost want somebody that was like the miniature me to listen to this one day and go, do you know what, this person's similar to me. I speak to so many different personalities, and everyone has a similar sort of story. It's not about how good your grades are and this and that and the other. It's just, you just have to have the drive to just get up and go. Understand that there's going to be hard times ahead, but that's not what defines you. It's actually what makes you better. And if I keep sharing these stories, my younger self, somebody that's very similar to me as a young kid, is going to hear this and just go on to do great things. And I get it. I get messages all the time where people say, that was an amazing episode, thank you so much. And just to get one comment like that is enough for me, because I selfishly, I get to become friends with people like you out of this podcast. But then also, if I can help someone in the meantime, again, like you say, helping is what gives me one of the best feelings, as we both spoke.
No, it's amazing, definitely. I love it.
But I wish you all the best for your
thank you
business,
for having me on
in the future.
And,
no worries, my pleasure.
Yeah, no, blessed.
Next time next time you're in Dubai, we'll do a face-to-face one as well.
Definitely look forward to it.
Because I'm sure there's going to be 1,000,001 things happen between now and then. That's for sure.
Oh yes, and we'll have more to catch up.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
But as I said at the beginning of the podcast, guys, I create these podcasts because I just want to help people. So if you can help me in spreading the message, sharing this podcast with anyone that you feel would love to listen to the conversation that I've just had with Sam, to help them grow in their career. Maybe they're in a point where they're like, do you know what, I just want to quit my job because I hate it and I want to go and start my own business, or I just want to go get a job in a better company, whatever it may be. Listening to something like this is really going to give you the motivation and inspiration to go and do that. So share it, like it, subscribe, and we'll see you again next week. Thank you so much, everyone.